All right, let me know if the audio is all right. As always, we're gonna get going in a second. As always, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I am in rough shape. It was one crazy weekend, and it is so muggy and gross here in New York. But we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. All right. Bada bing and boom. What's going on, everyone? Why does everything feel like a little bright? I don't know. Anyway, what's going on, everyone? Welcome. It's Monday. It's 11 a.m. Eastern. So I jump on here live so that we can answer some of your questions. Probably with a demo. I got Quinn with me as always. You know, you guys can show some appreciation, you know. All right. So before we get into the questions, which if you didn't know, this is my social. You can go to my IG. The day before I go live here, I put a question sticker. You guys can leave them there, or you can drop them in this chat. You just got to put a bunch of cues before it so I can spot it pretty easily. What's going on, Robert, Rick, Sean Vine? Oh, I didn't do the thing. Oh, man, I should have done the thing. All right, so if you guys are ready to get into this, I need you to type ready, where you're from, what you shoot, and what you shoot with. I feel like every week I do this, I forget how I do this. It's one of those things. I apologize, guys. Why do I have so many binder clips around here? What was I doing? What was I setting up? All right. Oh, we got UK. We got a bunch of you. Okay, cool. Ohio's in here. It's got a bunch of Nikon people. So I was actually going to shoot with the GFX 102 today, but I was walking out the door. I didn't grab the Pelican case that it's in. So we are shooting with a Nikon Z8 today. Okay. Before I get into the questions, let's talk about what's going to be happening here because there's some very cool events I need you guys to know about. And they are always listed on adorama.com/events. You know this. So, bada bing. We already had Ian Spania shoot live, celebrity photographer, really great lighting technician, did a very good constant light demo. If you missed that, that's on this channel. Don't forget, there's like 200 free classes on this channel for you guys. Jacqueline Tobin was on Coffee with Creators. It was like the photo editor for like a couple of decades. She actually gave me a 2-page spread of Rangefinder magazine. She was the CEO, not CEO, the chief, basically the editor of PDN, which was like this photo district news that was all of this industry for decades. We had a photo walk with Omar Robles, which was awesome. We had Small Rig in here building out camera rigs. So if you were trying to get into video or building out more of a serious cinema rig, he showed you how to do that. There's all stuff that already happened. What about what's happening? Well, Wednesday, Andrew Trost, one of my faves. This guy is an incredible camera operator and DP. Really beautiful stuff. His work is incredible. He was on Coffee with Creators, and I worked with him on set here through Adorama. We shot things like the brand campaign for the commercial. We also shot short film called New York Rhapsody, directed by Sal D'Elia, one of our own. Well, he's coming in here to do a demo for you guys about how to light for a narrative in cinematography, balancing window light, how to make light look like it's organic, even though you were setting it all up, which we've done before on a photo kind of way. This is more of a video sort of philosophy and process, so you might want to check that out. Thursday, Daniel Norton makes his triumphant return back. This is the guy who built the original event space. He'll be shooting portraits with point and shoot cameras. So if you've been having fun with point and shoots and want to get more out of it, that's what Dan's going to be doing. I think he's going to be using a Ricoh GR. I'm not 100% sure. We're going to find that out together. And then Tuesday, June 30th, the immortal Joe McNally makes his triumphant return back to Adorama, home base, if you will. He's going to be shooting live for you guys. So make sure June 30th, if you can't be here in person, you jump in this chat and give Joe all the energy that you can. And that's pretty much what's going on for the rest of June. There's stuff stacking up for July. If you guys want to stay up on the events, like get a notification for them, I recommend following Adorama on Eventbrite as an organizer so that when they post something, you get a notification of what it is, whether it's virtual or in person or both, you know, because there are hands-on workshops coming up that you're not going to want to miss out. Those are not streamed, right? Those are, you got to come and hang out. Photo walks coming up, a lot of stuff. So make sure you guys are following it, okay? Yo, we got Matthews in that. Yo, Matthews representing. How sick is this shirt? Thank you guys so much. This is Matthews is like the legacy company, right? They are the grip brand of Hollywood. So Martine, I'm guessing that's you in the chat. Thanks for joining us. All right, so we got maybe monkeys with a Z9, a ZR in Winnipeg. We got LA in the house with Matthews with the Canon R5. You have our Canon R5 Mark 1. All right. A7 III coming from Jersey. Man, we got a good mixed bag in here. All right, Ohio with a Canon 5D Mark III, kicking it a little old school there. That's kind of crazy to say that's old school, right? R6 Mark II, 5D Mark IV. We got a nice mixed bag in here, guys. A ZFC. Now you guys just playing with me. All right. So last week, I think we went through, what was it? We did the memory card thing, right? Where I shot to that Steve Express card. If you guys missed that out, I thought that was pretty good. And I hooked up the ZR directly into feed, which is pretty fun. And I'm trying to just come up with more and more things to bring to you guys, like some gear that I think is cool that you might not know about or something like that. And then we shoot it, right? I think the Pro Photo firmware one was pretty good. Why is this up? Where's my chat? There's my chat. Okay. All right. So again, if you guys have any questions, just type a bunch of capital Q's in the chat before your questions so I can spot them pretty quickly. But I do have a couple of questions from the question sticker. Number one basically is asking, are strobes, like what are the tubes or bulbs inside the strobes rated for? So when they say something like that, meaning how many flashes can you get out of a studio light like a Pro Photo or something like that before you have to worry about replacing the tube? If you are using a reputable brand strobe that has been a legacy brand out there that has been around for a while, you should, and this is staple, the tube, not the bulb, meaning the modeling light, the tube, the flash tube itself should give you well over 100,000 flashes before you even have to consider having an issue with it being burnt out or something like that. Where you will run into issues with a flash tube being burnt out is mishandling, pushing it beyond belief, like high-speed sync at high frame rates, like really just beating the snot out of it. Because the reality is the tubes are rated for more power output than what the strobe is going to actually do. And that's what any quality brand should do, is anything that could be expendable inside of a unit should be rated higher than the capability of the unit, or what I was taught was called the potential of the head. So you would have, you know, if you had like a 2400 watt second pack, the tubes might be rated for 4800 watt seconds or something like that, but it went to a 2400 watt second pack. I'm just making these numbers up, but that's kind of what it is. So I would basically put it in the same category as a mechanical shutter. Like, when do you get nervous about those breaking? Well, when you get to numbers that are kind of crazy, which is like 100,000 or something like that, or above that. If you're talking about the modeling light, if you were talking about something like a halogen bulb inside of an older head, which is literally a filament burning, you have hours that they're rated, but you also don't have to run them all the time either, you know? So it varies based on use. What I will say about actual bulbs inside of strobes that are modeling lights is, do not touch them with your fingers. If you put your hand oil or any type of oil onto the bulb itself and it's going to burn, it is going to physically burn and pop. Okay, so now we work a lot with LEDs inside the strobes to make them a little more efficient, brighter, and we don't have to worry about swapping out bulbs pretty much. I have very, 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 very rarely seen an LED chip not work in a light in this era. So I couldn't tell you what those are rated for, but it's almost like a non-concern at this point because they're not a burning filament, okay? So overall, if you're worried about how long your strobes last or the tubes, think of them like they're shutters, like a mechanical shutter, over 100,000 flashes, and you should kind of start thinking about it. What you might run into, though, is in some strobes that aren't very high end, you might run into color shifting over time. When I was buying used strobes as a kid, I remember all these veteran photographers were always like, oh, don't worry, they all are still matching color. Oh, don't worry, it's still the same color as when I started with them years ago. Like, that would actually be a thing because the coating on the tubes would actually start breaking down, and the coating is what kind of filtered the light to make the color fidelity. So that might be an issue more than I would worry about the actual burning out of the tube. So keep that in mind. And of course, always check with the brand manufacturer and see what they rate them for. You know, they should publish that data. I will say very high-end strobes. For example, you guys saw me shoot with the Pro D3 a couple weeks ago. That actually has a flash counter inside the menu. So you can see how much it was used. And that's really great for places like rental houses to know the life on their gear when they're renting it out, what condition it is when they rent it out to something that's a high-end studio or something like that. You know, so it's nice to see. I wish almost all strobes had that kind of like a shutter count, I guess, you know, because if you think about it, the shutter fires and so does the light, and it's one and the same, right? Wear and tear is wear and tear. Matthews is saying that's how we design our grip. Failure point is normally 3 to 5 times the gear's capacity, if not much more. And that's serious because what Matthews is putting out there will absolutely, someone's well-being is underneath something that Matthews is putting out there in the market. So if it's going underneath an actor, whether they're a super celebrity or not, it's still a human life, right? We gotta worry about it. Okay. Safety is always paramount. This is why we need to learn how to use our C-stands properly, understand what our gear's limitation is, understand what we're putting people around. You are responsible for the well-being. If you have someone stepping onto a set that you created, you are responsible for them. Okay, I said this in the video where I yell at everybody for setting fire to people for photos, for stupid photos. And I will stand by that till the end of time. What did I just click? Okay. So the other question, also, you guys with me? Are we all right? I mean, I know it's a light day. It's this was a crazy weekend, by the way. We had the Mermaid Parade, always a favorite right here in New York. Father's Day going on. It was a really great weekend, but we are getting ready for some thunderstorms. There's flood warnings going on. It is very, I'm like, oh, look at this. Look at this. This is, ugh, I should be home, guys, but I'm here for you. I'm here for you. If you guys have questions, put a bunch of capital Q's in the chat and we'll get into it. The other question I got, which, let me see how they worded it actually. This one's kind of interesting because I think I'm going to basically shoot the answer for you guys. What are some things to think about? What are some things to think about or concerns you might have when bouncing flash? Okay, well, that's actually a really good question. What's going on, Kristen? Jeff, what's going on? Kathy, how are you? When you are bouncing your strobe, you are taking all the fidelity that they put into the R&D of your strobe and kind of throwing it out the window a little bit. What do I mean by that? Whatever you bounce it off of, it will take the properties of that. In fact, a lot of people probably learned that when they bounce, if they hand hold a speed light, if they put their hand around it and cup it, it'll bounce and give more of a soft appeal. Well, guess what? Your hand skin, no matter what type of skin you have, is going to cast a warmer light than what would normally come out of that strobe. So if I'm bouncing a light around, one thing I'm going to worry about is the color of whatever I'm bouncing off of. You want to stay into the neutral realm. If you bounced off of like a warm wood, you're going to get warm light back. If you bounce off of a red piece of paper, you're going to get red light back. Blue paper, blue light back. Whatever you're bouncing off of, it is physically reflecting it. You've probably even shot people that were wearing like neon clothing sometimes, and it would reflect up and they'd get like neon pink going on or something like that. So things like white, neutral grays are good to bounce off of. Metal surfaces will give you a more specular look. But another thing you're going to worry about is the distance of your strobe to whatever you're bouncing. So the farther that ceiling is away, if you're trying to bounce off a ceiling, the more power it's going to need to get there, right? Or if you can get it onto some kind of a stand that gets higher, closer to the ceiling, and it can say stagnant, you're good. A good rule of thumb, if you're shooting something like an event that's in the same room, right? You'll see a lot of photographers take their lights and point them into the corners of the room because a corner is kind of like a pyramid and actually kind of gives you a similar spread to what a umbrella would be like, right? Kind of similar, right? Do I have an umbrella? Actually, oh, look at that, I have an umbrella. So if you, of course, it's like a monster umbrella. You know, so if I am, take out this diffuser really quick. So if I am bouncing it into the corner of a room, it's similar to this shape, I'll get a similar spread and effect. So it's a good way to go about it. But if that room has, I don't know, green walls and a white ceiling, if you bounce it into that corner, as opposed to just the ceiling, you're gonna get some green light back and skin tones might be looking a little questionable, you know what I'm saying? So that's something to consider as well. I always have somebody, or maybe This was like an old type of thing. Every time me and Daniel talk about this, we always say the last place the light leaves is your light source. And then someone jumps in the chat and goes, no, 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 no. The light source is what's firing the light or whatever. No, it's not. Whatever the light leaves last becomes your light source. For example, I don't care how much engineering they put into this. If I'm shoving it through an old softbox that's kind of yellowing or changing color and is sacrificing 2 stops of light, that softbox is creating a light that is less power than what I could probably do with the light, that is less a different color fidelity than the light initially comes out of. So the light is leaving that diffusion. The diffusion is your light source. So if you're bouncing off of a ceiling, that ceiling is you got a few square feet of light coming back down. That is a larger light source. That's why it is softer, because it's larger. And 2, it's probably diffused because it's scattering all over the place. So that becomes your light source, because if it was really this, it would look like this, you know? Oh boy, a bunch of questions popping up. So before I get to those questions, just to let you guys know, if you guys want to get into it, I was thinking maybe I would throw some gels on some bounce boards and we would see what happens when you're bouncing off of colored substrates to prove this point. But I think you guys kind of understand what I'm talking about. Edgar's asking, speaking of bouncing light, I want to get the old school top-down beam of light in the photo. I was only able to achieve this by adding haze and fog. Was that the right way? So one misconception about light, and I think it comes from movies, is you can't light air, right? Like air doesn't show up, right? So if I took, let me see if I even have, do I not have anything to do the things with? Hold on, guys. Like there is, you're not seeing this to this, right? Actually, let me see if I can find a can of fog really quick, because I had a can of fog in here, and then I think somebody stole it. Oh, nope, I got it. Okay, cool. So let's do this, okay? Your light has to reflect off of something for it to be seen. It's not going to reflect off of light. That's why almost every set you're on has some form of haze to it. Usually, if it's like an indoor kind of thing, because they're trying to get the room to have its own light, you know? Let me shut this off. Let me shut this off. Let me shut this off. All right. So if I do, let me shut up a couple more lights. All right. So if I shine this light, you're not seeing anything over here, right? But all of a sudden you start seeing the room, right? Look, no light on it. All of a sudden there's light on it, right? You can't light air, but you need light to get bounced around, reflected or diffracted inside something to then make something happen. I mean, it's even dissipated and you still see, you can see the light, right? I take the light over here, you don't see it so much, right? So there's like this crazy notion that you can, that I know when we're creative and we're seeing things that we want to create in our heads and all the drama, and a lot of times we're kind of jumping onto things that we've seen, but the reality is that you know that how like the haze kind of works. You're going to notice it in everything you watch now. Everything you have has some kind of haze to it, you know? Oh, did I leave that up the whole time? Did you guys see that, or do I have to redo that? So if sorry guys, I didn't know I left the question up. I'm being by myself a little rough sometimes. And someone wrote a nice comment to tell me how painful it is to watch me do this by myself. I'm really showing some appreciation. So you can actually see the beam of light, right? Right? I put it over here, you don't really see it. It has to be bouncing off of something, reflecting to show. You have to be lighting something, you know what I mean? All right. Yeah, Edgar's saying he used the PMI. What is going on here? Use the snoot and the PMI smoke. Yeah, whatever works, you know, you just need something in that air, you know? Tony's asking, Seth, if you're bouncing flash, is TTL still accurate or go full manual? Yes, TTL is absolutely still accurate. You know why that is? Because TTL works off of a pre-flash. Whatever the situation you're in, it's judging the pre-flash off of that situation. Distance, angle, whatever your camera settings are, right? So if I am using TTL and it pre-flashes to me, which is a pre-measured amount of light, it knows how much light it's putting out. Then the camera sees how much light is reflected, right? That changes the power of the light based on the settings in my camera. If it did a pre-measured light and the camera settings are like f8 and it said, hey, this seems to be 2 stops underexposed for what we're trying to do here, it would adjust the power of the light from where it is 2 stops brighter. Now, what's the difference between that and pointing it at the sky? And that pre-flash is then bouncing off of the ceiling, coming back down, and that pre-flash is the same measurements. It's doing the same thing in that situation. So yes, TTL absolutely does work. What you might find is that because you're bouncing it so far, and you might be in such a setting or a situation that the light just feels like it has no power, right? The farther that, think about it, every time we increase our distance by double, we lose a stop of light. Well, if I'm firing a light at someone at about 3 feet, but I point it at a ceiling that's 12 feet, right? That's 4 times. That's 4 times the distance. That's a lot of light loss. And don't forget, it's not just that it has to hit that ceiling. It has to come back from that ceiling and come back down. You know what? Let's do that. Let's fire a strobe at Quinn directly, see what we get as a reading, and then let's point it up at the sky. What you're going to find is you're going to need to get that light closer to the ceiling, because if you leave it at this height where you're at, it's probably not going to work out. If you're in something like 12-foot ceilings or whatever. Okay, let's do that, and then we'll bounce some light off of some boards with gels on them, and we'll talk about color cast. How's that? Joel, I'll get to your question in a second. Tips for gripping and angling a reflector on a C-stand with using a grip arm. I feel like I've seen you use those knuckles before. I'm struggling with reflectors weight causing it to sag. What kind of reflector are you using that is that heavy? When you see us gripping a reflector to a C-stand arm, it's almost always foam core board, which weighs nothing. I'll do this really quick and then we'll do the bounce, okay? This is the one thing about this format I can never figure out, is how to not make the questions go all over the place so I get derailed from the thing I was doing. But it's okay, guys. Like, we're just hanging out, right? Your C-stand knuckle. It's funny because I got Matthews in the chat right now who knows way more about grip than I ever will. Your C-stand knuckle, right? Right? This is for your sockets, and then this is flat. You're going to want to put your board inside this flat part. If it is a reflector with a spring in it that you collapse down, you're going to want to put it into the largest socket and then just lightly close it down. You don't want to bite down too hard. You don't want to wreck your reflectors, okay? So the way I do this is I open up that knuckle. Oh my gosh. You can even see that we have bite marks like all over our reflectors, right? You can see these bite marks here, You're going to open up. You're gonna make sure that you have clearance first of all. So your knuckle knob goes out. Your grip arm is over here. Open it. Expose that flat area. Put in the foam core, and then lightly. You don't got to crush it. It's foam core. All right. And then you have this arm to pivot however you want. If you want it more stable, let me see if I got a clamp somewhere actually. Here. If you want it to be more stable, take an A clamp, clamp it to the arm, and you've got yourself basically a reflector however you want, however tall you need it, all that kind of stuff, right? So angle it however. So that's basically a smash and grab way to grip a reflector. If you're telling me that it sags, you probably, either you're using a really heavy reflector that I can't imagine what that is, you're not tightening it correctly, or you have a questionable stand overall. I can't imagine what would make a reflector cause the arm to sag, if I'm being very honest. All right, let's do the bounce thing. I love how I walked in here like, I don't know what we're going to do today. I hope I get some questions, and here we are with some questions, right? All right, let me put this into group A, and we'll do a quick TTL tethered in, just a raw light onto Quinn. Let me drop some paper so we have a clean background. Everybody good so far? There is no air, guys. I am not built for summer. I am not built for summer. Yeah, but even if you're using a 5, okay, Joel. So Joel's saying he's using a 5-in-1 reflector. Even if you're using a 5-in-1, do I have one? There's no way it should be that heavy to sag an arm. Joe, you busy? Can you just grab me a 5-in-1 really quick? Yeah. Thank you. I'll grab one really quick and show you, but even if you're using a 5-in-1 collapsible reflector, even if it's 5 feet wide or whatever, it should not be causing your arm to sag. Thank you very much. No, do not, don't. He's gonna throw it like a Frisbee, this guy. All right, so here's a reflector, right? If I have, inside the reflector is a spring that lets you do this, right? So it's a metal spring in here. Some are bigger than others. There's different quality of them. I'm not gonna get into that, right? So we're gonna do the same thing we just did. Same thing, right? Let me get rid of this. We're gonna do the same exact thing, except instead of using the flat, right? We're gonna use where we put the 5/8 pipe or grip arm, or even the baby pins that you guys see me and Dan use all the time. So I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna separate it. I'm gonna put the spring inside that socket, and I'm just going to tighten down very, very lightly. And do I still have an A clamp somewhere? And what I'm gonna do, and guys, I have like 5 videos doing this. If you guys need, they're on my channel. But right now I have this reflector, and maybe it sags like this, but the arm shouldn't sag, right? So all you gotta do is take an A clamp, boom. And now nothing's moving. I'm able to position this however I need, right? And we're good. If you're what you're talking about as sagging is the reflector not staying stable on the arm, just get yourself an A clamp. And you should all, if you're in a studio and you have C stands, you should have A clamps on every C stand, in my opinion. Every stand I have always has clamps on them. You know, really quickly, guys, I'm going to put on the air conditioning because I am physically dying. Does that help answer that question? Let me know. But overall, you know, it doesn't just stop with the stand, I guess, is what I'm trying to say is you're going to need supplemental grip like clamps and tape and whatever else. It's always more than what you think. All right. Jeff's saying if the arm is sagging, maybe the knuckle's on the wrong side. It could be that, but I think he just roared it. Yeah, there it goes. Not the arm sagging, the reflector. There you go. So it was just a wording of the question issue. So cool. I'm glad that helped out. I mean, I've even had guys, which I do not recommend this, but I've seen people even wrap Velcro around a stand and then just to have like a permanent place to slap it down if they never change the reflector, which I think is horrible. But it's just kind of, there's a million ways to do it. I would just say always get yourself a bunch of clamps. You should have 3 different sizes, 1, 2, and 3-inch clamps, you know, and then you're good to go. All right, what was I doing? Do you guys want to do the TTL bounce, or do you want to go into throwing gels on reflectors? I mean, we can mess around today. All right. And man, do people overlook having baby pins? I really, what's weird is no stands, like professional stands, come with baby pins. I don't get why that is, you know? Okay, let's clear this. Man, I'm sweating my brains out, guys. Hang on. There is no air in here. Can you tell how sweating I'm getting? Okay. All right, let's do the TTL bounce. Yeah, I'm with you. This is just stuff I've seen over the years because people just do whatever works, right? If you have what I think people get into a trap of is they try to get a setup in their studio that they think they will never touch. They think like, this is my look and I'm going to do it like this. And they try to make it as permanent as possible. And I think that limits you, number one. But number two, like, don't you want to change it up? What if something happens on the fly? What if a client wants a different look? But they come up with these dumb things. A long time ago, some guy jumped in my comments and yelled at me because I said, like, you need to mount your lights to a baby pin because there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was it has the indent so that it's safer if the knob gets loose or whatever. And he goes, "Oh, you're just trying to sell people stuff. I take an angle grinder to all my stands and I make the knobs." I'm like, so you're hurting the integrity of the structural integrity of your arm. Which what if happens if that cracks, right? But like people get all these dumb ideas, and not for nothing, the pin is like $8. And it'll last your whole career. What are you doing? Like, oh. Anyway, everybody's got something to say. The Velcro was just like a dumb thing I saw over the years, and I'm just like, I'll talk about it. Okay, so let me tether in. I had a camera somewhere. Okay, here we go. I'm going to be using a Nikon Z8 with a 24-120 f4 lens. Usually I have the Z6 III with me, but I left the Z8 in my bag for some reason. I forgot what I was doing. There was something I needed resolution, and I can't remember what it was. I swear every day is like another, like, what did I do today? Where am I? Who are you? All right, let's get this up. We're in TTL, and I'll start. Here's the thing. I'm going to start at f8. I can almost guarantee you I'm going to have to open up that f-stop when we get into the bounce because I'm going to lose so much light. It is insane. But let's troubleshoot this together one step at a time, okay? So let's also, guys, if you can hit like, I would greatly appreciate it. It's like 50 of you in this chat and 14 likes. It's an easy thing. It helps me out. These streams already aren't the most watched thing on this channel, but I think these streams are super important to just keep a heartbeat of this channel going, and always know that you guys have a destination you can come and hang out with, you know? And hitting subscribe would be a massive help if you're new here. I do this every Monday. I'm available for you guys, but also we have amazing streams. We have really great classes. Joe McNally's going to be here, man. Come on. Free Joe McNally class. And you're going to want to be in that chat. You're going to want to be in the chat. Before I get going with the strobe, what's the first thing I got to do? I'm going to take these cards out just in case. What's the first thing I got to do? Before I start putting a strobe in here? We got to do a black frame. We got to see that the only light that we're shooting is the light that's in the space. What's going to change is I'm going to get some of this ambient light mixing in because I'm going to have to open up for sure once I start bouncing the strobe, all right? So let's take a shot of Quinn. I'm going to put Quinn. Can you take a step back? I know. The Mermaid Parade was crazy. I don't know. She's so bold. She walks around with no top on, a bunch of glitter. She's unbelievable. What confidence this woman has. All right, let's take a look. Nope. Do I not have a tether? Hang on. Camera. All right, let's take a black frame. Am I on RAW? Oh, I'm on RAW plus JPEG. I'm a jerk. Okay. Okay, so this is our black frame. You can already see there's a little bit of her showing. So we're going to run into issues pretty quickly. I can feel it. Right there, a stop and a half, and I'm already seeing her. So I don't even have that much room to work with here as far as opening up if I need more light. So that's our first issue that we're going to run into. But let's do a TTL exposure. Let's start with that, right? Let's take a quick TTL, and I'm going to just throw a strobe. We'll just kind of almost treat it as almost on camera-ish, okay? Let me take this out of here. You guys don't need that. Quinn is crazy with the glitter. She comes in here and I'm like, come on. And I gotta tell her to wipe some of it off because we're gonna do this other thing that I don't need the glitter for. It's a different look. Let me throw a sandbag on here just in case I start knocking things around as always. All right, let's throw this right here. Okay. We're not going for pretty light here. We're just throwing a strobe at our girl. So let's do a TTL exposure on Quinn. Bada bing. Quick TTL, and we're on exposure, right? We have detail in all those highlights. There's detail in them. So we're not overexposed, right? We're there. Okay. So now when we look at the power is set to 3.6. So TTL is telling me that at this distance of a little under 3 feet, that at f8 ISO 100, we need 3.6 on the power scale out of this. And if you want to know about the power scale, a couple of streams ago, I went over what those numbers mean. So make sure you go check that out. Okay, so now let's try bouncing off the ceiling to mitigate some of this hard light and soften it up. So in your head, you're like, okay, I'll just point it straight up, right? No, same distance. We're not changing the height of it. We're just blasting the ceiling. Let's do TTL and let's see if I have enough juice. Actually, you know what? Before I go into TTL, this is the same power bouncing off the ceiling. So this is 3.6 bouncing off the ceiling. Barely anything, right? In fact, if I take the exposure slider and I crank it, we're about four stops away. So technically, if you want to really shotgun this, 7.6 is where we should land on the exposure. Technically, let's see if we have enough juice in this light. TTL off the ceiling at 8. So I was 4/10 off. 4/10, that's in the pocket to me. Obviously, it's just her hair getting lit. So now we say, okay, well, that's cool, but I want the light on her face. Well, here's the problem. It's basically overhead. If I want the light to go onto Quinn's face, it has to go behind me and bounce back. What is that going to do? It's going to increase the distance of the light from Quinn, which means I'm going to need more power. We have 2 stops of light left in this light. We're at a power of 8 with bouncing off the ceiling, and now we're going to increase the distance of that light to the corner, the back corner of the ceiling. So right there, we're increasing distance, means more power there. And then because that distance increases of that light coming back to get to Quinn, we need that power to increase yet again. So let's see what happens. I'm going to really quickly spin this light this way. I'm not going to change the height, right? I still have that ace up my sleeve. If I boost the height, that'll shorten the distance, which will give me an edge on power output, right? So let's see where I'm shining this. Actually, I think I'm going to switch to the overhead so you guys can even see this. If I switch to, does this kind of help you guys? So we're bouncing it into basically where the wall meets the ceiling. And don't forget, these are dark walls. So I don't know how good this is going to go, but we're going to do this. Okay. So let's bounce. This way, we're going to keep it in, you know what? We'll keep it at 8. We'll keep it at a manual power. You guys with me? That chat's pretty quiet. You know what? That's not too bad, actually. That is not too bad. It is a little under, so let me put it into TTL and see what TTL gives me. So TTL increased the power, and we're at 9. So we got 1 stop of light left. Not bad. Not too bad, right? So this is direct light. This is bounced off the ceiling. This is bounced off the ceiling at a different angle with the same power. And then this is TTL adding some more power to get us to exposure, right? Not too bad. For F8, that's not bad. Let's see if I max out the power, what we get. So we're at full power now, bounced into the corner of the ceiling. And that's all right. A lot better than something like this, right? We didn't move the position of the light. We just changed where it was bouncing off of, right? Meaning it is the same distance, like the stand didn't move is what I basically would say, right? So we're just changing the angle of light bouncing off of our substrate. So what happens if I boost this light up, move it a little back and point it a little more up? So now I'm at full power. This can only get dimmer from here if I'm moving this light like this. So we will probably, that's a better bounce to me. You guys see the difference? It's subtle, but it's there. It's a little softer. Now, if I take this light and I hoist it into the ceiling closer, it's going to spread less on the ceiling, right? And that means it shouldn't bounce back as big of a light, which means it might not be as soft. But let's try this out. I'm going to put it into TTL and see what happens here. Okay, so I just put it into TTL. This last shot, this was at full power over here. This is with the light boosted closer to the ceiling, which makes it a smaller spread of light, which makes it a smaller light, which makes it a little less soft. And you can see that by the shadow pattern. But we also lost some exposure. Well, guess what? TTL is rating this at 8. So we lost those stops of light that we boosted it up into. So let's boost this up to 10 and see what happens. That's overexposed for sure. And I can tell you it's overexposed because we're losing detail. There's a little bit of detail, but I would probably like it more around here. So let me take a stop of light out of it. That's a little better to me. So we are almost at full power. We're 7/10 away from full power, basically. Basically a stop away from full power. But TTL is staying there. It's worth it. It's working, right? The baby pin? Yeah. I can put a link for the baby pin in there. I don't think I have. I got to see what Adorama even has in stock. But here, I'll give you the Flashpoint baby pin because it's $8. Boom. All right. Baby pin's in the chat. Okay. All right. Where was I? All right. Right. So I'm actually surprised this light is keeping up with this bounce from this size ceiling, but this is at f8. If we were closed down to f11, probably another story. We'd be in more of a hard spot, right? But I think I don't know if you guys can even see how high this light is. Like this is gotta be, I don't know, 10 feet up, right? Can you guys see this light, right? Or would this kind of help more? So this light is all the way up here. So we're boosting it. We're boosting it. But that does give me a little edge as far as not being so super flat, able to sculpt and, you know, actually have a shape to the light. So this is the light closer to the ceiling, right? And then this is the light bounced at level of the model, our subject, I should say. So you can see that there is a little bit of control that can be had if you know what you're doing or know what you're going after, right? We wanted more of a sculpty look. We get it closer to the ceiling. It's projecting a smaller amount of square footage onto the ceiling, right? If it was doing like an 8-foot square projection of light, now we're doing maybe like 3 feet, maybe 4 or 5 feet. So it's a smaller light. That means it's bouncing back smaller, and that leads to technically a harder light, even though it's still a pretty soft light, if you ask me. And if we want, we can throw a bounce in there because why not? We're doing this. I could take any sort of reflector. I can go into, what was I shooting those at? What So we were at 64 millimeters, whatever that means. Put in a bounce underneath her, and it'll be nice and cleaned up if we want. Right? Nice and cleaned up. If you want that glowy look, but if you wanted some structure, right? Big difference. And if I want to split the difference of that, I can lower where the reflector is to the subject, right? So if I lower this down, that means the bounce has less power of light thrown back. And that's like a horrible way of saying it, but so if I drop it down to here, hold on a second, guys. You can see that we get like the difference of the two, right? So no bounce, lots of bounce, and then lowering the bounce. So we still keep the shadow pattern, but we just adjust the density of those shadows to what we're trying to go for. You know what I mean? So it's not, you're never at the mercy of the light completely when you're the one creating it. You can find these little, you know, options here and there, these little tricks here and there, as long as you understand what's going to happen when you do that. All right. So my biggest issue when it comes to things like bouncing light off a ceiling is it starts looking like top-down, garbagey, kind of light. You can get raccoon eyes very easily, but if you're bouncing it at an angle, you have more of a shot. Or if you're using the bounce as just the fill, meaning that you're just banging light into a ceiling to lift up the room light, and then you yourself are like walking around with like a speed lighter or some kind of strobe to camera as your key. So the bounce in the ceiling is lifting up the room, the ambient light, the actual light that you're photographing your subject with, you can still control that with like a small softbox, long arming it, or have an assistant, or even walk around with a stand, an auto stand that goes down, you know? Thanks, Matthews. We got to get you in here, Martine. Come on, man. I mean, this was just something really quickly to slap together on the fly here, you know what I mean? But I hope this kind of makes sense to you guys. When you're bouncing light, always think about what you're bouncing off of, because your light becomes that. All right. I mean, we have this, actually, here, let's do this. I have this projector screen right here. Well, it's made to reflect light. Well, let's reflect some light off of it. I'm not even going to move Quinn. I'm just going to bounce it so it's like a side light on her. And then we'll see if we can pivot it a little bit. But let's put this into TTL. Let's see what a real quick side light off of the projector screen looks like. Kind of looks like window light, right? And if I ask, actually, before I ask Quinn to move, what if I took the strobe and instead of putting it directly there, what if I skipped it this way a little bit? What if we took it and we went, I always pick the wrong one. What if I, instead of it being this way, what if I skip it this way a little bit and point it up a little bit? Now we're hedging our bet a little bit as far as changing the angle of that light from just being from the side. So let's do that. I'm going to pivot this up slightly. And now I have this giant reflector here, right? Well, oh, sorry, guys. Oh, man. Let's see if we change that pattern of light. And it does. It's very subtle, but do you guys see it? If you look at like the corner of her face over here, I don't know if you're going to see it on stream. It's very subtle. If I push this a little more towards that projection screen, right? That's not looking bad, guys. This is where we started. This is where we're at. Look at it lightening up over here. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this on stream. It's probably like compressing it. It's very, very subtle. But let's say I said, hey, Quinn, that's very nice dramatic light, but what if I had you turn a little bit to the screen a little bit? And she's like, oh, sure, Seth, anything for you. And I go, all right. And then look at that. Off of the projection screen, we got a nice clean light for her. And if we wanted to, we can throw that a bounce to the side over here if we wanted. I'm gonna hold it pretty far off just so we still get some structure. You know? So you can dial in that shadow density with the bounce if you wanted, you know. I don't know if you guys are going to see how subtle that was. It is crazy subtle, but you can get that meticulous if you want. Most people are not going to get that psychotic about it. But if you wanted that like more organic look, being able to bounce the light and scatter it, like for example, even though I'm bouncing off of this projection screen, if you guys notice, me and Daniel, we have a studio that has white floors and white everything. When you do that, it'll bounce off of the floor and the rest of the walls, and you'll still get this like scattery organic nature to the light. And that's really what looks more natural, is that it's not coming from like a source and yay. Like, no, it's interacting with things and coming back to your subject inside your frame. You know what I mean? I loathe projectors. Those things kick off so many different color casts. Depends on a lot of things. I'm not going to jump down that rabbit hole right now, buddy. You know, this is a straight up projection screen. It's made to reflect light. This is a white projection screen. There are silver ones that act a little differently. Silver screen, you know. But yeah, I think bouncing light is almost an art form. I'm going to sound crazy saying that, but it really is a way to break the light, but then reshape it how you want. So even in a studio, bouncing light off of a V flat, a lot of times I'll bounce it right off of the floor just because I want it to just scatter and not look like it's just lit by a strobe, like pointed at somebody, you know? No problem, guys. I know. It's we're hitting. If you guys can hit like before you leave, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, this was a kind of I was actually gonna throw. I tell you what, maybe next week what we'll do, I'll throw gels. How about that? Next week I'll throw gels onto bounce boards and we'll bounce it back in and see if we can make some kind of interesting color patterny, organic-y looking colored light. You guys want to do that next week? If I don't have any weird questions. Listen, there is a lot going on. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the bell so you're notified when we go live, so you can jump in that chat room and ask the questions you want to ask. Don't forget about that. This is a predominantly live channel, guys. We're at 127,000 thanks to you guys. You remember when I was standing right here and going, man, I hope we can get to 10,000. We are well beyond that. And I can't thank you guys enough for being that part of this. Oh, Matthew's saying our projector screen material is math bounce. Used to be clay coat. Great materials. Okay, I want to try that stuff out. I also want to try out your voodoo cloth, but you know. I feel like, not surprised the rabbit hole, the ones I deal with in college classes and lecture halls look terrible. Yeah, but there's also a lot of things that go into projection screens. Some people are using screens that are so old they're discolored. There's a whole lot. There's a lot of stuff going into it. It's just like anything else that affects light. Of course, there's like 6 cops outside. Do you guys see this? What is this? So these streams are anything but tranquil and peaceful. You know what I mean? Man, I am sweaty. I am so sweaty. Matthews, you made a good sweat sponge here. Thank you so much. This is a cool shirt though, man. I'm digging it. I really dig it. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure you are checking out adorama.com/events for the event schedule. Don't forget, Dan is going to be live on Thursday. Should be a pretty good one. That's on the main channel, but it is collaborated here a day later. So you can still catch Daniel's streams on this channel, as well as Coffee with Creators, which we're almost at 100 episodes. Can you believe that? I can't believe we're at 53 episodes of this. What happened to my life here? What are we doing? Yeah. All right. I think we're pretty good here. You guys, any last quick questions before I call it? I kind of want to just jet out of here before the storm hits. You know, not have a bag full of gear on my back would be nice. I'm actually really surprised that this was able to bounce at f8 at a ceiling this tall. Usually if you're bouncing, you want to keep your aperture relatively wide open just so that you have one, faster recycling time, you're not overworking the strobe, your battery lasts longer, and why do you need to be closed down if you're in a dark area anyway? So if for me, if I was bouncing off of like an event hall, like something this tall, I'd be starting out at like 5.6 f4 maybe. If I had a 2.8 lens, I'd wonder about that because of sometimes you're doing like more than one people close up, like you're just doing two people, and it's got a little bit, but you know, I f4 is a little bit of a safer bet for me. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. Do me a favor, hit subscribe. If this is your first time here, there's 52 other streams like this where I'm not tired out of my mind or sweating my brains out, you know, kind of nice, right? Ian Spanier, that was up last week. Small Rig was here last week. Got Joe McNally coming up. You've got a lot of stuff coming up in July. Forget about it. You don't even know. Follow Adorama on Eventbrite. And I guess I'll leave it there. Yeah? You guys good? It's always weird when the chat isn't moving. Should start having coupon codes. Well, for that to work, they would have to have a coupon. But a lot of this industry is not couponable, guys. I don't know if you realize that. But a camera is a protected price, a lens protected price. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And also, these streams are up forever. By the time someone sees this stream, the coupons expired or not valid anymore, and then all I get is comments about this. So just stay up on deals. There's always deals going on at Adorama for sure, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Okay. There is no edited out of the recorded version. Live streams stay up raw. I don't think you guys realize that when you're watching this in playback, I'm doing this with no safety net. Whatever you guys ask, if I don't have the answer, I don't have the answer. If I don't do the answer properly, I didn't do the answer properly. Like, there is no safety net here. So the live streams are up in real time. You will be able to watch this as soon as I'm done being live. So if you are watching this on playback, if you are watching this stream on playback and you made it up to this point, I need you to type in fried Oreos in the comments so I know you made it this far. Because I had some really good fried Oreos this weekend. Coney Island, baby. You gotta love Coney. All right, we could. Replay crew, I'm looking to you guys to boost the number of this, so make sure you drop in comments. It definitely helps out the little thing called the algorithm for me. I will, am I gonna be here next week? There's a chance I may or may not be here next week. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. Be good to each other. If you want, follow me here. I post a question sticker the day before I go live, so you can fill out the question sticker if you want to get a jump on things. Other than that, there is a photo critique next month. You have to be here in person for it. It is not streamed, so if you're a New York local or going to be here, submit for that. And I have to book myself for like a real demo at some point. I know I do. I got to pick a topic, and I just got to book myself. I don't know why it's like pulling teeth with me now. All right. All right, guys. I guess I'll see you guys. No Coffee with Creators this week. There's some construction that's going to be going on in the store, so no Coffee with Creators this week. Next week. And Thursday, Dan will be here, okay? And I'll be here with Daniel, all right? So I'm having a hard time closing this out. You can tell how tired I am. I'm just rambling. All right, guys. I am going to get out of here before it starts thunderstorming. Be good to each other, guys. Later. Peace. Ooh, bye.